service of the NTA.
Hello and welcome to Platform. My name is Anthonia Amusu. Today I'm really pleased to bring you a very distinguished Nigerian, one who is making all of us proud in the diaspora. He is a professor of medical technology and honorary research fellow at the BioEngineering department of the Imperial College London. He holds a Bachelor of Engineering in Mechanical Engineering, Enugu State University of Technology. He also holds a BSc in Production Engineering Management and another MSc Engineering in Medicine from the Imperial College London. He also has a PhD in Orthopedics from the Imperial College London. He is a consultant clinical engineer in Neonatal Mortality. He conceptualized and led the team that developed the local content incubator recycling technology, the RIT. It is used in the middle and low income countries to lower neonatal mortality rate worldwide. My guest is a world-class researcher and author, and he is currently the Imperial College London African Ambassador on Medical Technology. Please join me as I welcome Professor Hippolite Amadi. Prof, you are most welcome to Nigeria.
Thank you so
much. We are very glad to have you on this platform.
Thank you so much.
And then on the set with me, how did you do?
Yeah, my pleasure to be here with you again.
And then, of course, Bayo Ogori.
My pleasure to be here.
Okay, Prof, you, like I said, we are really very glad to have you on this set. You are a man of so many parts. You are into engineering, you are into medicine. Can you tell us how does that work? Or how is it working?
Yeah, as I grew up, of course, in this country, I had attraction towards medicine, and also I had attraction towards engineering. I started my life, my training as an engineer. But even when I finished my training as an engineer, I still had much of my interest, a lot towards medicine, and I tried to find what I could do within the medical family. And that was what led to my going to take further educational trainings in medicine and or medical-related subjects. And that was what led to my going to Imperial College. And there at Imperial College, I had to take my medical courses that provided the room for me to apply engineering in medicine and, if you like, become a middleman that understands both professions. But it is a very huge advantage to multitask academically when you understand engineering, at the same time you understand medicine, and basically see a human being as a biological machine, and that really helps to deepen the understanding of medical science. And in today's world, it's all about multitasking and multidisciplinary, and the cutting-edge medical technology or cutting-edge medicine at that level is all about knowing bit there, and making the world.
So how has engineering helped your medicine, or how has medicine helped engineering?
Yeah, engineering has helped my medicine because basically, like you said initially, I'm a man of so many parts. I'm primarily a consultant orthopedic biomechanist before the pediatric thing that we'll be talking about today. And my area of specialty from Imperial College is the biomechanics, or the function of the shoulder joint. You know, generally the body joints, but narrowed to the shoulder joint, and in fact the tiny bit in the shoulder are called the glenohumeral joint ligaments. And I basically see that as a locomotive system. You see it as some biological system. I see it as a locomotive system. So with my background in engineering, understanding linkages in engineering, and then applying it to biological systems, I'm able to understand deeply how it functions and how surgical techniques could be designed to better surgery. But one of the works that I've done, which is the cutting-edge orthopedic technology, is to design shoulder surgery on your computer before you go to the theater. So you basically see how the patient will function before you begin to do the surgery. So this is somewhere Nigeria hasn't gotten to, but it is how engineering helps to create new things in medicine. So it's a very powerful tool. On the other way, medicine has so much helped my engineering because I can let students who are studying engineering today to understand that they should not limit themselves to just what engineering holds, or people who are studying medicine to limit themselves. Many of my colleagues at Imperial College actually started with MBBS, but today all of them are biomechanists of some sort. And when they begin to talk engineering, you will not even remember again that they are first degree of medicine. So it's a wonderful combination.
Okay, but for this purpose, you are here in the field where we want to talk about neonatal mortality, which I understand is, give or take, still a little high in this country. But before we go into the details, when we talk of neonatals, what are we talking about?
Yeah, neonates basically are newborn babies within the first 28 days of their life. They are called the neonates. They are categorized as the neonates. So it is a crucial aspect of human life because that is the beginning of human existence, the moment the baby leaves the womb.
Okay. So would I understand that in Nigeria we still have a challenge dealing with those group of children, like you said, that is just the beginning of life. We still have that basic challenge with dealing with our neonates. What is the situation to the best of your knowledge?
As a matter of fact, it's huge challenge, not some kind of challenge, it's huge because the neonates are very delicate. The neonates are very special. The neonates, you can easily get it wrong with the neonates. And because of that, there are a lot of specialized things concerning them. And they cannot do most of the things that we physiologically do as adults. They can't do. Many of them will have to be assisted to do it. For example, regulation of our body temperature. They can't do it, especially the premature among them. And stuff like, of course, babies can't talk. So you have to figure things out yourself. But when it now has to do with the physiological behavior that's supposed to run their human system that is still immature, it becomes more complicated. So it becomes very crucial that specialized things have to be done and has to be understood before you can combat the menace of having many of them to die. If you do not have that expertise, you are going to lose so many of them. So this is the reason I think that it's still quite high here. Perhaps there are things that ought to be addressed that haven't yet been addressed.
Okay, let me come in there. Now, when you say specialized things, let's start from understanding those things that as a country, let's take Nigeria now. I know you are looking at Africa as a continent for this research you've done for 15 years. But then if you take Nigeria as a case study, what are those specialized things your research has established that need to be done to save the neonatal lives?
Great. If you permit me, I will go a little bit to the core song of global health. And from there, I'll drive it down so that it will be in perspective and a lot of viewers will understand where we are coming from and then narrow it to that small area. Every person in the world, around the world today, know that there's a big song called Child and Maternal Health or Maternal and Child Health. It's a very big issue. If you like, I'll call it hot potato. The fact is, a lot of professionals around the world swarm to that area to checkmate the problem and get it solved. And in Nigeria, doctors have done fantastic work. Every person wants to do something. Every person wants Nigeria to come out of the problem, especially when it is said that Nigeria is a major contributor to this failure in the world. Under 5 years of age, mortality, identified to be quite high, became one of the primary goals of Millennium Development Goals to get it solved here in Nigeria. It is easy to quantify the number of babies or the number of children under 5 years of age that are dying and then try to checkmate it. And then a lot of things come to play. Immunization, etc., like you said earlier on, to remove some of the diseases that kill them. And if you come a little lower and you look at the category called infants, which is children 1 year and below, you also see a different group of children highly in need because of their class of health problems. And then you also can use so many other methods to lower the rate of death. But beyond that, you come to another category within their first 28 days of life. These are the neonates. They also have their challenges. The primary health care in Nigeria and the teaching hospitals, the special care baby units and so on, and the pediatrics units, the doctors and the professors have done fantastic work, lowering this from the time Millennium Development Goals started quantifying the rate of reduction of this death rate. And many of the professionals can tell you how much work they've done and how much success they've had. But when it comes to that small category, it looks that there are still pretty much challenges. In Nigeria today, for example, if I should put statistics to the whole thing, the neonatal mortality rate had not been lowered significantly. Quickly, in a demographic publication of the WHO in 2008, referring to the data of 2007, WHO stated that up to 781 babies die every day in Nigeria. And in 2013, UNICEF published a demographic report again based on 2012 data, not projection, data, real data.
Okay.
And if you play around with the mathematics, they were rather saying that 761 babies die every day. In other words, within a 5-year gap, they've been able to save 20 babies per day. And in my own judgment, I feel that it is not significant at all. Perhaps things have been done not in an area that will capture the main problem. I appreciate the fact that the doctors have done a lot of job in this country, but I think my research decided to investigate what is it there in the first 28 days of life that have refused this thing from coming down. Because if they are able to achieve it, then they will have made a lot of progress. Mind you, the neonates, it is well known, contribute 40% of the death of infants under 5 years of age. So if you do not tackle them, because they have chunk contribution, if you don't tackle them and win them, you can lower the overall mortality rate. So you have done so many things. And yet it will look as though you're not doing anything, because the one with the lion share is still there telling you, hello, that kind of a thing. So that is why I had the support of Imperial College and my team here in Nigeria. I can't just mention all of them, but they know themselves. You know, there are various people in this country working with me, powerful professionals, and we have focused in this area, trying to understand the thing that is making this one not to come down. And these are some of the things I'll be talking in this program.
Okay, have you answered Deji's question?
Yes,
he has.
Because in any way...
No, so if he has, then let's now find out why hasn't the numbers come down? Why haven't the numbers come down?
Yeah, it hasn't come down. Based on our research, we started probing that if what the WHO said is anything to go by, for which an update have been given after 5 years by the UNICEF, that perhaps there's something that have maybe an iconic factor that have not been addressed. So what we did was to look at literature and also carry out our own investigation within some hospitals in Nigeria to find out if there is within the neonatal life if there's a high concentration of death at any stage of neonatal development. So what we discovered, which agrees with literature, is that within the first 28 days of life, that is neonatal life, there's concentration of the death rate in the first 7 days. So when we now checked the analysis of the World Health Organization, that became clearer because they had already published that 79% of the neonates that would die in Nigeria will die within the first 7 days of life. Wow. So I think that the monster is appearing. Yeah. So rather than flogging my head about the activities of the first 28 days of life, if I want to stop this huge thing, I'll just go to the person that gives the 80%. I mean, this is 8 in 10 will die within 7 days of life. Wow. So within the first 7 days of life that we have narrowed this thing down to, a lot of things happen. There are babies born with all kinds of problems, and they are all contributing. You know, I don't have to go into medical terms and jargons now, because it will take our time. I'm going somewhere. So there are myriad of factors that contribute to babies dying within a few days after birth. But what we'll now try to look at is there any of these factors that is very outstanding? Others are important, and doctors are working on all of them as though they have equal share. Is there anyone with iconic share? Yeah. And what we did was to try a very simple thing. And this thing happened because when I came to this country, started visiting the teaching hospitals, I identified one thing, that there was no availability of adequate number of functional incubators. That one is an error on its own. But initially, I never thought that it could be a major issue. So we started by asking questions. Why don't we have enough incubators to look after these babies? Because many of them are using crude methods, like using hot water bottles. Those ones, hot water bottles have got their challenges, and they are not effective. No. And the answer we got was that it is not possible to adequately incubate the babies because of lack of funds. Incubators are very expensive systems. I'll give you a very quick example. The Calio system, which is made by Draeger, is a state-of-art system which Nigerians will love to. You know, Nigerians like very big things. And that incubator in England sells for £25,000. And when you want to, there's hardly any hospital in England that will go and buy such machine outright. It's usually price plan. Across 5 years, when it's 5 years, the companies come and pick their systems, and they will take time to pay off. But when countries in Africa come to buy, they will tell them cash and carry. It's not easy. £25,000 translates to over 6 million naira. For one. So how many hospitals do you think that can acquire that state-of-the-art system that can do it? Even with the state-of-the-art system, if you do not know how to power it, you use it to kill a baby rather than saving a baby. It's just like you go to buy a Bentley, very sophisticated car. And you don't know how to drive it, you crash and die off. Instead of giving you comfort, it gives you death. It's exactly that. So we had to try to find a way to beat that problem, and that is how RIT came into play. I know that you guys might So this is the problem. We discovered that we might be concentrating on temperature issues, and maybe by the time we go into statistics of what we've been able to do, you will agree with me that we have discovered the monster. And the monster is that the temperature regulation on newborn babies, whether premature or full term, contributes so much to the survival of those babies, and many of other problems are hid onto it. So that temperature control in babies will have up to 60% responsibility for this huge amount of death within the first 7 days of life. Perhaps we are not doing it the way we're supposed to do it.
What's the relationship between climatic condition and the culture and our culture vis-a-vis neonatal?
Very good question. In fact, that's a very brilliant question. You know, If you read some of my publication, I'm sure that many of you have read some of my publication, especially the chapter that talks about neonatal mortality in the current edition of what we call the Bible of Tropical Medicine. It's called Tropical Medicine, is a book volume. I authored the chapter that is called Neonatal Mortality. And before I started writing my chapter, I made an analogy with 2 pregnant mothers, one in Scotland and the other one at Nguru in Yobe State, Nigeria, where the ambient temperature is 47 degrees C. And in Scotland, where the ambient temperature is negative, is in the negative region, sub-zero. Both babies in the womb experience the same thing. The mother's physiological activities provide the enabling environment for the fetus to be okay. Both of them in 2 different places, they have the same comfort. But the moment they step into this world, things change. This one is born into 0 degrees C. This other one is born into an oven. Application will never be the same. So for the white man to come and tell Africans, oh, you need this kind of incubator that they are using in Scotland, I don't think I agree. And I tried to paint that picture, and it clearly showed any white man that would rise up to say, oh, why is this new thing coming, to think again. Definitely, we may be thinking about removing heat to bring it to the acceptable level that the neonate can survive, rather than adding heat that they would do in Scotland.
Oh,
it's a very basic.
Brilliant. Okay, brilliant.
What about the cultural aspect?
Cultural aspect is also another very what you see. It's very interesting because here in this country, we know the things that things that switch us on, and I think that science done beautifully is science that respects culture. So what we do here, for example, in Nigeria, where we think that every solution has to be foreign-based, that's why those solutions don't live long. Whereas they're living long in America or the UK, they come into this country, they don't live long because there's a cultural dimension to it. If we have systems that can understand some of the things that we do as people, we'll be able to stop the problems that those systems will create when we begin to function as typical Africans we are. An African can come doing one thing. If I use the neonates, for example, in the hospitals today, if you permit me to say that lack of effective or adequate number of nurses attending to babies at a particular time has become a culture because they are never sufficient. I'm a visiting consultant, or I have been, or currently am, in up to 20 teaching hospitals and federal medical centers in this country. And I'm sure that many of them will be watching this program and they will say, yeah. And one thing none of them will refute is that I have never met a single hospital with adequate number of nurses attending to the neonates. Let me tell you something. There's something we call apnea in neonatal management. Apnea is when the baby suddenly, let me put it in a very basic term, when the baby suddenly forgets to breathe. As simple as that. And you needed to find out that this baby is quiet, this baby is flat. You come and say, hey guy, you've never breathed in the last 1 minute. And if that, why that? But if you do not come, for one reason or the other, there are a lot of things that leads into apnea. I don't want to get into it. If no one is there to dictate that, and that baby stays there for 20 minutes, you can't get that baby back. So we must have heard that doctors are bubagging. You needed to see doctors, or you need to see doctors and bubag. They sweat like the way you've never seen people sweat, because that's their way of resuscitation. Sometimes they do it on ending with no result, because the baby has gone too far. Now, I'm bringing something in here, and I call it culture, and that culture should be broken. It's not correct culture. You have a special care baby unit in this country. They are all overloaded. A special care baby unit having up to 40 babies per unit time. How many nurses on duty? 3. You are thinking of more than 10 babies to one nurse. It doesn't work. In fact, it should be, ideally, 2 neonates to one nurse, because that nurse will have to think for the baby, that nurse will have to identify some of these things when they are happening. So it becomes very important that certain things have to be done. Like in my practice here in Nigeria, I had to do things to help these understaffed units to be able to monitor and know when the baby goes flat, so that it will raise alarm and begin to call a nurse. So the irony of the thing is that there's a possibility that in a unit, 4 babies could be attacked by apnea at the same time. Only 1 could be saved. Because the nurse will be busy trying to resuscitate one. The other 3 have gone flat, and she's not aware. By the time she finishes that, she'll go and pack the other ones in cartons. And then we are talking about...
So why are we having this challenge in terms of staffing?
That is breathing
Could this be as a result of brain drain?
I would not completely agree. I will simply say that because there are a lot of qualified people around the country who could be employed.
Okay, so what's the problem?
But it looks like government looks at how much money they want to spend, the subvention that they give to this hospital, and when the hospitals employ the nurses, either they don't employ enough, or that when they employ, they keep them busy in other departments because they don't really understand what is happening at the ACBU. Not every doctor, even chief medical directors, understand what the nurses and doctors suffer at the ACBU. So now I have this platform. I just have to say to all the chief medical directors, especially the tertiary hospitals in this country, that you're not doing the neonates any service by starving them of staff. Many of them are dying. Many of the nurses and doctors are concentrated at the adult wards, where an adult can tell you, oh, I'm hurting here, I'm hurting there, I'm hurting there. But the neonate, that poor nurse will have to think for the neonate. Will have to feed the neonate. Will have to manage up to 10. They are not rats and rabbits. They are full-fledged human beings. Let's give them respect.
You mentioned something about incubators. Well, that's very critical. Temperature regulation. What kind of incubator then has your research been able to bring forward that can be adequate for Africa?
Right. I think that every standard incubator can do the work. But every incubator manufactured by different companies have got its own characteristics. The main issue in Africa is that the incubators that are adjudged very good incubators are incubators that have been manufactured by the big conglomerates in the world, and these incubators are very expensive. I just talked about Drager-Kallio system. How many incubators would a poor hospital in Nigeria buy? We are talking about a situation where at a particular time in a teaching hospital in this country, you can have as much as 20 premature babies, all of them incubator dependent. Yet, you go to the hospital, you have only one functional incubator. Maybe if they would want to buy Kallio system, for example, how many would they buy? 20? 20 times 7 million.
20, yeah.
You think that ACBU is the only department in a hospital? No. There are so many departments. In fact, the neonatal unit is only a tiny segment of pediatric department. No chief medical director will want to spend that kind of money. That was why we had to develop the recycled incubator technique. And what it does is to harness the opportunity created by lots of other systems that have been bought in the past, but these systems are obsolete and they no longer work or something. We have to modernize them.
That's why it's recycled.
Yeah, putting new application inside the same casing and then making it anew. And many of them will run for another 10 years. And it makes the acquisition mind my word, it makes the acquisition of effective thermoneutral system or effective incubators available at affordable prices. Because you see all these systems in the market. You can see any system at 200,000, 400,000, but the issue is, does it really do the work? Can it work? Will it kill a baby rather than saving a baby? So when you begin to think about those systems that will really do the work, you're thinking about the big money. But is there any way, a way of creating something that is indigenous, something that is Africanized, something that understands our environment, our people? Like the RIT systems are interfaced with apnea monitoring system that can cry for the baby when the baby passes on. So these things are the things that you're using to checkmate culture. Just the much we can, so that we can.
Sorry, Bayo. I just want to quickly find out this RIT system that you and your team came up with. Are they done here? Are they done in Africa so that they are within easy reach, or it's still being done in London or in Europe, and then we still have to import them?
Yeah, no, everything is done here. Okay. Everything is done here. I'm very sure that many of the teaching hospitals that have been, the pocket of places where we've done our research are just there now smiling and say, yeah, tell them. Everything is done here. Everything is local content. And if there's anything that is not strictly local content, it is something that is configured to our requirement.
I'm sure that's where your engineering comes in.
That's where it comes in. So that configuration, I call it African configuration, comes into that. In 2000, and I think it was in 2012, when the World Health Organization invited me to address the WHO Forum on Medical Devices, and all the who is who in the world in medical device, they were there. I made a comment that generated huge uproar. And after that, a lot of Africans and Southeast Asian countries surrounded me. And some Africans said that, wow, we could hear Kwame Nkrumah talk again. Because I was telling the white, I said, yeah, many of you will think that I'm one British from England. I'm fundamentally an African. I said, the world, it has come to a point where the world will have to tell Africans the truth. The fact is, the world has not got all the solution for African problems. Tell Africans that, and I bet you, Africans have got brain. They will go home and think and create solutions. And their own solutions will be the best solution, because that solution will understand their environment. That was a big uproar, because I was telling them, why are you flooding Africa with all this sophisticated equipment that will not, after 6 months, they are in junkyards and equipment mortuaries? Whereas in your own country, they serve you full-time 7 years, 6 years. Something is wrong. Those equipment don't understand Africa. Give Africans the opportunity to create their technology, and Africans will run.
How can mortality rate be lowered?
No, if we will go to that, this issue we're on, because you just said the raw materials are basically Nigerian Africans. Now, what did they do? What actually is the functionality of RIT that makes it the kind of thing that will make a newborn baby in Africa to be stabilized and to survive?
Okay, very quickly, I'll tell you. The problem that we have with Calio system, I just beg the pardon of Draga, because I have to use Calio system because a lot of hospitals in this country during the time of Obasanjo acquired Calio system, and many of those Calio systems are now in the junkyard. And they know the reason. Because to maintain the Calio system is a huge amount of money. Some hospitals can't afford to maintain them. Their in-house maintenance team can't handle them. Very sophisticated. And then by the time you know it, these machines run for 6 months, 1 year, they develop one problem. And when they're told how much it's going to cost to fix it, they leave it there. It keeps gathering dust. And one thing with the material that they use to do that Calio system is very beautiful system. Very beautiful. When you pack it and the thing begins to gather dust, the materials begin to weaken, and then you will see the thing breaking and cracking, falling off. I'm sure that many people who have got Calio system will understand what I'm saying, because they just come and suddenly they see that the machine are cracked and the thing is just falling all over the places. After 5 years, functioning for only 1 year or 2, and that's the end of 6 million. So that is a crucial issue. The RIT, because it's made here, and it's fundamentally maintained with the thing that you can enter into Balogo Market and pick, or go to Onitsha and pick, or it just cannot fold up. Okay. Even if some of the companies that made some of the configured components close down, they are generic components. Another company that is making such component, just pick it and reconfigure it. So RIT can never go off. And RIT can be maintained by the local people in the hospitals. You don't need to invite one German engineer to come and fix it for you. That's why RIT could keep functioning until you are tired or you now feel that, okay, I need to change this casing, get another casing, and then install the same behavior.
But the functioning systems are the same.
So would you say with the RIT, many more teaching hospitals now have incubators?
I'll give you a very quick example. I would have really loved not to mention any hospital, but I'm sure that some hospital will say it. When I started my work in Nigeria, there's hardly any Nigerian hospital with up to 3 functional incubators. Hardly any.
When was this?
And that was, if you can want to date it back to pre-2003, because the first RIT was launched at University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital in October 2003. That was when we did the clinical test of the first RIT. Now, it was quite popular at that time for you to go into a hospital and you don't even see, this is big teaching hospital, you don't even see up to 3 functional incubators. Wow. Wherever they are able to acquire 3 or 4, after 6 months, go back there, they have nothing. That is the trend. All right? So, but when RIT came in place, it was the first time Nigerians understood that a big hospital could operate day in, day out, month in, month out, year in, year out, with more than 10 functional incubators at any time. I'll just give you a very quick example. In the last 7 years, at Lut, for example, here in Lagos, people could just take their newborn babies and go straight to Lut because they know that the incubators are running. And Lut was able to build their incubator capacity using the RIT method to become the largest capacity in West Africa, having up to well over 40 thermoneutral systems from virtually nothing.
Now,
yes. Well, at the end of 2013, I don't know exactly what is there now, but that hospital had been the king of incubation centers for babies. If I give you an example again with a place like Federal Medical Center Owerri, that are turned out because there have been concerted training of the professionals at FMC Owerri. FMC Owerri was one hospital that by the time I appeared on the scene, they had only 1 marginally functioning incubator. But they grew to become the 3rd largest capacity in Nigeria with over 22 thermoneutral systems. And their doctors and nurses, the management ensured that every one of them kept going through my retraining program. And FMC Owerri had done something. They have already broken an African record, because April this year, they discharged what you would refer to as the tiniest premature Africans to survive in a hospital. And this baby was born 550 grams and 28 weeks of gestation. Now, when we cite the literature to find out where that record belonged, we discovered that the celebrated case in Africa was from a case from Harare Hospital. That baby was 595 grams, and they were referring to it as the record. But Owerri has done 550 grams. When I started my work, there's hardly any baby below 1,000 grams that survive. I'm not saying that some babies below 1,000 grams don't survive, but there's hardly. When you're coming down to birth weight of 800 grams, forget it. 700 grams, forget it. But now, name it, all over. Because it has become a popular thing that you can build your incubator capacity. Benin is UBTH is the 2nd largest capacity in Nigeria with over 26.
Do you have figures for private hospitals? Because I know some private hospitals, at least here in Lagos, that that were done, that were donated and well equipped, and they take care solely of babies. I'm sure some of them might be doing very good in terms of figures.
I agree with you. Some of them might be doing very good, but I don't know this hospital, because primarily, it's not because I don't care to know. It's primarily because I felt that my work is more public-oriented, and my time is limited. So I seek to go to the government hospitals where most of the indigents go to in order to solve that problem. But there's no doubt that a lot of private people are doing great jobs.
Well, how much does a unit of this RIT cost?
That is where I will shy from talking about the amount, but I will give it to you in terms of comparative
analysis. Yeah.
There was a publication that we made in 2007, where we compared various incubator systems that run in Africa vis-a-vis RIT. And what we could get from that economic analysis, that the cost of an RIT was 25% on the average the cost of the imported incubators. This imported state-of-the-art incubators.
That means you are saying 75%.
75%. And then for maintenance, the cost of maintenance of RIT is only 14% the cost of maintaining these other systems, if you were able to get the engineers and their supply, because the supply chain is almost zero. It's like you pick it, it damages, you dump it, and go and buy another one.
What about the issue of power supply?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Yeah,
because power is issue.
It's a very big
major
issue. It's a very big issue.
here.
And when I'm talking about the culture, if we keep talking about these technical things and don't go into the main clinical things, we'll waste all our time. When I was talking about the culture, I did not mention everything about the culture. I just talked about like lack of enough nurses. You bringing power is another dimension to it, because in the RIT is configured to understand that there's something called crazy NEPA.
Epileptic power supply.
It understands, and I'm sure that people in Lokoja right now listening to me will be smiling, because there's an issue where one of the installations in the ACBU at Federal Medical Center Lokoja would always refuse to do the work, and they will ask me what is going on. I said, that system is telling you that the power that is coming is not adequate. It's not going to allow it to pass to go to the incubators. So go and figure it out. So even when I'm not there, the systems have been programmed to understand that the engineers can reverse the polarity. The moment you reverse the polarity of power coming there, the machine will stop it. The moment the power coming is erratic, it will stop it. The moment the thing is slowed down, it is not up to what it should be, it will stop it. And it will use its own internally built battery just to hold on until you fix it. So there are a lot of things that have been put into this to be able to...
The RIT, is it limited to Nigeria? The other African countries, do they have access to it? Is it helping them in any way?
That is why the thing has been internationally peer-reviewed and published by international journals like Pediatric and Child Health, all that. And it's been talked about all over the world, especially the low and middle income countries who would want to use it. Yes, I've had invitations to help out in some other African countries, including up to Brazil. But the problem there is I can't be everywhere. And that is probably what will make us to come to the last bit of the thing that we might discuss if we have got the time, training.
Training, yeah.
So building capacity. I'm happy I went to Ghana and I told them, they took me to the Rich Hospital Ghana, which is one of their big teaching centers. And I told them that I can't be everywhere. Yes, there's problem here, but I'm happy to take Ghanaians to Imperial College, give them the necessary academic qualification that would make them be proud enough to carry out research, go to the global stage and talk about it. And then bring them back in here to begin to solve this problem. Okay. So the most important is to identify this problem.
Okay, no, I'm sorry, wait, before we go into training, when you consider the fact that close to 80% of, give or take, births occur in rural areas, and I'm sure they still experience this issue of these neonates and their survival, how do we address this issue at the rural areas?
I would think that this is the most important question in this whole discourse, because perhaps any person that watched NTA News on Saturday when there's a discussion on child and maternal health will really be very happy with what is going on, especially what the Primary Healthcare Commission in Nigeria is doing, and some of the intricate and super successful work that some team of people are doing in the northwestern Nigeria, like in Sokoto and Bauchi. And such people might also feel not too happy because it sounded like the neonates are not also able to enjoy all these successes. But I think that our discussion today will complement that, to say neonates have not been forgotten. It's just that some private people have quietly been working on the ground. That my team have quietly, without Nigerians knowing.
Hey, talk about your team. Like, how many are you? I'm sorry. So, like, how many is this team before you continue this?
There are a lot of Nigerians involved, and there are also a lot of my colleagues at Imperial College involved. The Nigerians involved are found in many of these teaching hospitals. There are not so many of them, just pockets of teaching hospitals where we have been able to try the various procedures that we are creating, testing them and doing comparative analysis to see whether we are making any progress. It's delighting to say that from our research of 2009 that put the national facility-based neonatal mortality rate at 254 deaths per 1,000 live birth presentations. This is like slightly above a quarter. Yeah. Right? 1 in 4 would die. This is the national average. And when the same comparative analysis was repeated in 2004, which was peer-reviewed and published by International Journal of Pediatrics, we now discovered, because we wanted to measure, the changes, we now discovered that the average national for the centers where these things are being tried, the neonatal mortality has dropped by 55%. And then we measured other hospitals that were not practicing this, and theirs have dropped from 254 down to 250. This is just about 1.6%. And you're talking about 55. If you're able to translate this down to the grassroots, Nigeria name will never appear again as countries with high neonatal mortality rate, because Nigeria is about the highest in the world. But her question, how does it trickle down? It's really very disheartening that if we are celebrating any successes, it's only capturing 20% of the problem, because according to the WHO, which of course the record came from Nigerians here, 80% of the children being born are being born in the rurals, far away from the big urban cities where the teaching hospitals are. And many of these neonates are not able to make the trip. So we are actually talking about the success of capturing or something that will help 20%. That 80% is untouched. And that is why the statistics cannot be altered, because you've not hit the heart of the problem. If we discovered that thermoneutral dynamics and ability to control the baby's thermoneutral state can help us save more than 50%, and we now take that and find a way of adapting it to the rural conditions, and then empower the rural villagers about thermoneutral damage. There are so many things you can go and teach the rurals what to do concerning a newborn baby, but those things will be capturing in terms of collective solution. They will be targeting 50% or less, but there's one thing that will target 50 or above. So if we can let the rural people understand how they will be able to give them things, adapting the RIT to the rurals, and show them how they can at least provide adequate thermoneutral warmth for the baby, we will save a lot of them. And then at the same time, also empower them how they can translate or refer cases they can handle to the bigger places. That is also another major thing for which my team has been developing technology to address. So the things are there, it's just for Nigerians to harness it.
Yeah, but then who will drive this? Because you'll be working with the public hospitals. Now, primary health care systems are within the jurisdiction of the local governments, if I'm right. And for all your researches now, you've been dealing with the tertiary institutions. Now, where do you get the link? How will this gap be bridged so that the technology that is being tested at the tertiary institutions are also one way or the other trickle down to the primary health centers? At the teaching hospitals, this is where you have high concentration of the consultants. And the consultants will not want to go and live in the villages. I will not be one of the voices who will tell them to go and live in the villages.
Why is that so?
I will not actually. You actually. Police will say that he's just talking bunkers. If I say, because even you yourself, if I tell you to, that's not wrong in living in the village. If you give us effective safety in the villages, good roads, good cars, and good communication system. Why not? You can live in the village and commute from there if you want to.
Let's go on to Deji's.
But the teaching hospitals, there are a lot of reasons why they are there, because they are not just consultants, they're also teachers.
Yeah. Because
they have their students to teach with, and to operate from the villages is rather going to be. There are a lot of factors, actually. Right? It's not like many of them would not want to. They all have houses in the villages and all that. But coming back to your question, the teaching hospitals and what we'll be able to do in the teaching hospital, we'll be able to do them based on the fact that here we have educated people, graduates in the university, professionals, researchers. So we have built systems that will take off from that level. When we are going to the rurals, it's a different thing altogether. We have to make systems that will understand that the people that will be handling it will not understand
not too educated.
the YDX.
Yeah.
All right? So that's why I use the word adapt. Yeah. We will adapt the technology. And even in the transport, neonatal transport is another big issue, which will have to complement this, so that there's going to be a very clear-cut marriage and flow of activity between the grassroots and where the very difficult, complicated problems of the babies will be handled. So these are the things that we have put in place. And of course, I still do my work in London. It's just that I have got this passion for Africa, and because I truly believe that African problems must be solved with African solutions before the thing can be sustainable.
Sorry, but we then recommend that since you are talking of adaptation now, you have team members in Nigeria. Is there any way your team member can start working with various Ministry of Health at the state level or at the federal level to work out the easiest way of adapting these systems, so that your dream of saving a lot of lives at the grassroots level will be achieved?
Yes, but one thing you also understand is that as an academic at my level, I would not give a license to somebody who is half-baked.
Yeah.
Because the person would go and kill instead of saving. So half-baked professionals, I don't do it. And that is why, for people who know me, they know that I'm very principled. I want things to be done the right way. I'm very happy, and this is what I consider to be my greatest achievement. I have a very high respect at Imperial College, London. And whether my colleagues want to please me, or a way of telling me, well done for working so hard this many years, I told them I want to empower Africa. And Imperial College is a heavyweight in academics. We are the world #1. What I want us to do for Africa is not what has been done in the yesteryears. You want to help Africa, you come down to Africa, take African students to England. First of all, they're going to have all kinds of shocks, cultural shocks, climate shock, and again, we'll not daze them with our sophistication. We take them to our sophisticated lab, and we train them with our laboratories, we train them with all our state-of-the-art gadgets. These things daze them. And then when we finish making them PhD, they are PhD based on British problems, British technology, British sophistication, British everything, functional road, functional system, functional electricity, and then you now send them back to Africa. What do you want them to achieve? They get confused. They don't know where to start from. But I say, Imperial College, what you should do for me, I want to take Africans to Imperial College. And in our unit, we use our world-class teaching method to prepare them in coursework. The second equally important 50% component...
Please, you have to speed it up. Our time is almost up. But I want you to conclude quickly on this.
All right. 50% component of their degree is the project. It's not going to be a British project. We send them back to the African country where they're coming from. Instead of keeping them there, our researchers will have to follow them. They are going to use the local content material. We teach them how to harness local content material to solve their own local problems. By that, they will now develop their expertise in creating solutions for their own problem using what they can find in their land. And then we give them the Imperial College certificate. That now gives them power at the global stage while creating things in the rural villages of Africa.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Prof. It has really been very enlightening talking to you, and we are really very proud and glad to have had you on platform. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
And then, of course, I want to thank my colleagues, Deji and Bayo.
Yeah,
my pleasure.
Okay. And that's our program for today. We want to thank you for being out there. Until we come your way another time, please do have a pleasant day. Thank you.